there's a name for what we're experiencing. That feeling of having our hearts broken so repeatedly by the news cycle. Flash floods, fires, mass shootings, wars within us, wars between us, wars in the world. Wars that make us question who we really are as a people. One day you're worrying about climate change, the next it's a group project, AI taking over, what you're going to do with your life. The next pandemic, your situationship, economic collapse or drama within your friend group. There's never enough time to process one crisis before another begins. Even when the crisis is no longer acute, there's a pit in our collective stomach, and it's not just because we're Jews with stomach problems, although that probably makes it worse. There's anxiety pulsing through our communities as we wonder what will happen next. The feeling is called existential whiplash. Existential whiplash. An Instagram post from a mental health service called Spring Health says that existential whiplash is the emotional strain of trying to keep up with daily life while everything around us feels uncertain or overwhelming. Sound familiar? Yeah. Our ancestors knew a thing or two about this feeling and what it's like to yearn for stability while knowing that change is going to keep coming. They survived slavery, escaped Egypt, crossed the Red Sea. They had a dramatic experience at Mount Sinai. They reached the Promised Land. In between these major events, they wandered in the desert trying to live amid existential whiplash, just like us. The Hebrew word for desert is midbar. It also means wilderness. The word midbar appears approximately 270 times in the Torah. It represents uncertainty, wandering, a feeling of lostness in a world churning with change. We've spent a lot of time here too, Bamidbar, in our own spiritual wilderness. Believe it or not, 2020 was only 5 years ago. And it's been such a long 5 years, and it's been utterly exhausting. But all that intergenerational trauma we've acquired, going all the way back to the Midbar, comes with intergenerational resilience. We're still here, still moving forward. We're even still complaining about it, much like our ancestors in the desert. Tonight, I'm going to share 7 lessons for our spiritual wilderness based on our ancestral experience, as well as a few lessons based on the literal wilderness. Some of our most powerful spiritual technologies mirror the interdependent systems of the natural world. In the wilderness, we have an opportunity to learn from that which is wild, around and within us. We will see what our ancestors and the natural world can teach us about the resilience we have right now and the ways we can build it for the future. So, 7 lessons for the spiritual wilderness. Lesson 1, build sanctuaries. Build sanctuaries. V'asuli mikdash v'shochanti b'tocham, God says. Make for me a sanctuary that I may dwell within them. The Mishkan, the communal portable sanctuary in the desert, was elaborate. 5 Torah portions in Exodus detail the building of this space, sometimes in excruciating detail. The Mishkan teaches us that at times of uncertainty, we should build something beautiful. We should pour our energy into creating, especially co-creating, something that will serve the community. What sanctuaries have you built in our wilderness? What does your Mishkan look like? Your Mishkan might be your dorm room, a friend's car, or your favorite coffee shop. It might be the Arboretum or another outdoor space where you feel at peace. When you can't change the whole world, you can still create something beautiful, something safe, something meaningful to you and those around you. The commentators point out that Vishohanti B'tocham means that I may dwell within them. Yes, we must build physical sanctuaries, and we do. And on another level, the text may be referring to the people themselves. Make for me a sanctuary that I may dwell within them, the people. The Mishkan, the dwelling place for the divine, is within every one of us. This means you can both build and be a sanctuary for yourself and others. When have you been a sanctuary for someone you care about this year? When have you been your own? What does it look like to know there's a safe and sacred space within you, one that you can always return to? The ultimate Mishkan, the traveling temple, goes wherever you go and is there for you no matter what. This is the first lesson of the wilderness. In times of existential whiplash, build sanctuaries. There are many examples of collaborative building in the wild that can be instructive for us. Bees build hives and make honey through a process called festooning. These festoons create structural support and regulate the temperature of the hive. Within the hive, there are worker bees who build honeycomb, nurse bees caring for the young, and scout bees who search for optimal hive collections. Each bee contributes to the structure that enables the hive to thrive. This leads me to lessons 2 and 3. Lesson 2 is everyone has something to offer. God instructed every person to bring gifts to the sanctuary, telling Moses, "You shall accept gifts for me from every person whose heart is so moved." Everyone was asked to give from their heart, and every gift was accepted. What can you do to sustain yourself and your community? Are you an expert problem solver? Someone with powerful listening skills? Are you creative? Are you the person who can always make your friends laugh? Think about what you can give and give it with love. It might be exactly what your community needs. Lesson 2, everyone has something to offer. Like bees, when we contribute our skills and strengths to our community, we also benefit from the skills of others. And this creates a more capable community that allows people to flourish, even or especially in the wilderness. This is where lesson 3 comes in. Ask for help. Ask for help. In the Mishkan, Kohanim were the priests who made sacrifices on behalf of themselves and their communities. The Levi'im played music and managed the practical aspects of temple worship. There were also specific roles for individuals. Miriam was the one who could always find water. Bezalel was an artist who designed the first Mishkan. Lessons 2 and 3 are connected. If everyone has something to offer, you can help others, and others are here to help you, like bees in their hive. We all have different skills to share. So who in your wilderness can you turn to for help? Who can you reach out to when you experience existential whiplash? When your well has run dry, find a Miriam who can help you locate a new source of life-giving water. If you can't serve God by leading song, find yourself some Levites who can. Hasidic master Sfat Emet wrote, "Each one gave their own offering, but they were all joined together by the Mishkan and became one. Only then did they merit the divine presence. Each person had something unique and precious to offer, but they could not experience the divine presence until they shared those offerings. We became a people united not by what we took, what we achieved, or what we conquered. We became a people united by what we gave to one another." Ecosystems are interdependent. Beavers create habitats, and those habitats are shared with other life forms. Recent research suggests that trees of the same species are communal and will form alliances with the trees of other species. Some claim that forest trees live in a cooperative, interdependent relationships, maintained by communication similar to an insect colony. We are both of and in the wilderness. No one can make it through the wilderness alone, and fortunately, we don't have to. So that's the third lesson from the wilderness. Ask for help. One Jewish practice that speaks to lessons 2 and 3 is the act of praying with a minyan, 10 people. Mourners Kaddish is one prayer we can only say when we have a minyan. We show up to support the mourners so they can say this prayer during their time of vulnerability and grief. In my prayer services here, we count all the Jews who are in the building, not just the ones who are in our service, as we always have 3 services going on, because I know that we're here together for the same reason. We are here because we know we are interdependent, because it strengthens the community, and because we believe in showing up. In April, there was a 5.2 magnitude earthquake in Southern California. A live cam from the San Diego Zoo showed all the adult elephants making a protective circle around the 2 youngest elephants during this earthquake. This behavior is a natural instinct to protect the most vulnerable, an elephant minyan. I think about it when we pray Mourners Kaddish together. We can't protect anyone from grief, but there is so much power in showing up, like the elephants. It makes the grief just a little more bearable and a little less lonely. When there's existential whiplash, make the minyan. When others ask for help, it's okay to not always have the right words. Sometimes showing up is the help. When people are vulnerable, when things are uncertain, when the ground itself feels shaky, count your people. Leave no one behind. Show up and be counted yourself. Lesson 4, practice mindful awareness. Be present and look around. Our ancestors often found what they needed in the wilderness when they least expected it. Jacob ran into the wilderness after deceiving his brother and his father. He fell asleep with his head on a rock, and he dreamed of a ladder with angels ascending and descending. Jacob awakened, saying, Ma nora hamakom hazeh. God was in this place, and I didn't know it. Moses was also Bamidbar in the wilderness when he saw a bush burning but not consumed in the fire. He had run away from Pharaoh's land, struggling with his conflicting identities as a master in Pharaoh's palace and a Hebrew like those Pharaoh enslaved. God spoke to Moses from the burning bush, saying, Take off your shoes. The place where you are standing is holy ground. It was existential whiplash. Moses and Jacob were in the wilderness, physically, emotionally, and spiritually when they received these messages. The Israelites were in the wilderness when they received the Torah at Mount Sinai. Midrash Rabbah, Numbers 1:1 teaches that this was because the Israelites had to be free and ownerless like the desert in order to receive it. The lesson is to be aware of your surroundings. God was in that place. The ground itself was vibrating with holiness. That which appears empty is full of potential. Make yourself free and ownerless like the desert. That which appears mundane may actually be sacred. Lesson 4, when facing existential whiplash, practice mindful awareness. You never know what the wilderness of our moment might reveal. Lesson 5 is to forgive. Yom Kippur is the anniversary of the day God forgave the Israelites for one of the greatest sins of all time, building and worshiping a golden calf. Moses went up to Mount Sinai to receive the Torah from God. The Israelites were afraid and uncertain as they waited. We've all been there. We turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms in the wilderness of the unknown, just like our ancestors did. Even Aaron, Moses' brother, a leader in the community, took part, inciting the group to not just build, but worship the false idol. We have all worshiped false idols in the last year. We have doom-scrolled through the desert, worshiping headlines, statements, and trends, arguing in comments instead of taking responsibility for our own errors. Your leaders, like Aaron, have also committed this sin. But the story of the golden calf and God's forgiveness of our ancestors remind us how important it is to forgive, even if it means forgiving idolatry. Individuals can't be perfect. Communities can't be perfect, and the world can't be perfect. Ecosystems can't be perfect either. Even a slight shift in one element can create significant and damaging change across the system. Without grace for the flaws of individuals, communities, or the world, We lose interest in showing up to help each other. We instead cut ourselves and others out. Our communities suffer as a result, much like our ecosystems when something is missing. On Yom Kippur, we pray to God to forgive us as God forgave us for the golden calf. But the only thing we can really do is forgive each other and try to forgive ourselves. Adonai, Adonai, al-Rahum v'Hanun, we chant, listing God's 13 attributes of mercy. God compassionate and merciful. Can we be compassionate with one another? Can we have mercy on ourselves? Can you forgive yourself for your own idolatry? Can you forgive your leaders, your community, the world? Can you forgive God? It's a tall ask. It's not always possible, and it's not even always the right thing to do. But most of the time it is, and we must try. Lesson 5, forgiveness. Lesson 6 is to make space for grief. Miriam, Aaron, and Moses, all great leaders, eventually die in the wilderness before the promised land. We'll focus on Moses and Aaron first. Regarding Aaron's death, the Torah says, all the house of Israel bewailed Aaron 30 days. Regarding Moses' death, we read, the Israelites bewailed Moses in the steppes of Moab for 30 days. To this day, Shloshim, 30 days, is one of the mourning periods after a death in Jewish tradition. With their deaths, Aaron and Moses taught us how to grieve. Elephants revisit the remains of deceased herd members, touching and examining the bones, standing vigil for extended periods. Some cry and refuse to eat after losing a companion. Dolphin mothers may carry their dead calves for periods of time, and other pod members may assist in carrying the body or guarding it. Loss happens in the wilderness. In ours, it may seem like everyone is grieving all the time. But announcements of anguish for suffering communities does not reflect a full grieving process. Existential whiplash understandably leads to statement culture. Everyone feels the need to say something about the most recent bad thing that's happened. It's often necessary, but it keeps real grief at a distance. We need to pause. We need to wail like the Israelites cried for Moses and Aaron. We need to reflect and remember like elephants revisiting their herd members' bones. Make space to mourn. That's lesson 6. Lesson 7 is to practice trust. God appeared to the Israelites as a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. The pillars were with them at all times, reminding the Israelites that they were safe. That's right, our ancestors had an emotional support pillar of cloud. Still, as a people traumatized by a history of enslavement, it took them a long time to trust anything, to trust their safety, their leaders, and God. And even when the Israelites were on the verge of the promised land, they believed false risk reports and acted out from a place of fear. They had to wait another 40 years before going into the land as a result. Nonetheless, the pillars of cloud and fire stayed with them, a divine presence, a reminder that they could learn to trust. When you are hypervigilant or overly attuned to risk, what is your pillar? What shows you that you are safe, that you can trust the process, that you will be cared for no matter how the future unfolds? Can you trust yourself, your leaders, your community? Lesson 7 is to practice trust, because in times of emotional whiplash, it really does take practice. But our ancestors learned how, and so can we. I'm going to share one case study from the wilderness that shows what happens when we miss the mark in each of these lessons. When Miriam died in the wilderness, the community was without water, and they joined against Moses and Aaron. The people quarreled with Moses, saying, "Why have you brought God's congregation into this wilderness for us and our livestock to die there? Why did you make us leave Egypt to bring us to this wretched place, a place with no grain or figs or vines or pomegranates? There's not even enough water to drink." Miriam was the one who made wells of water appear in the desert, so their concern about water was understandable. But by now, they had been Bamidbar in the desert, in the wilderness, for a long time. God had provided what they needed, from manna to eat to the Torah herself. By whining for the Egypt they left behind, the Israelites abandoned the sanctuaries they built together. With mindful awareness, the Israelites might have made space for Moses and Aaron to grieve for their sister. Instead, they panicked, quarreled, and cried for water. Ultimately, God told Moses to speak to a rock, and water would pour from it. In Moses' rage, he hit the rock instead. It's so relatable. The communal experience of water anxiety, the personal loss, the competing needs, everyone yelling over everyone else, and all of it happening all at once. It was existential whiplash. And instead of grieving, he had to make it stop. He had to fix it. Can anyone relate to Moses in that moment? You just want it to stop. You have to turn it off. I get it. But with awareness, Moses might have said, I hear your concern for water. God will provide. Give me a few minutes to myself before I ask God for help. Instead, he lashed out, hitting the rock in his rage. We're living in a wilderness, experiencing profound existential whiplash. The Israel-Palestine crisis, the climate catastrophe, rising anti-Semitism, lack of access to health care, the list goes on. While the issues themselves may be new to us, the experience of wilderness is, for lack of a better term, unprecedented. We have been afraid and uncertain before. We know what happens when we act from a place of fear, building false idols that don't really protect us. We know what happens when we jump into fixer mode without making space for grief. We are interdependent like so many animals in the wilderness. When just a couple of wolves can't trust the others, it threatens the health of the whole pack. We also know what it's like to build and to be a sanctuary for each other and for ourselves. We know how to make a minyan, how to lean on each other, and we know how to make offerings that come from the heart. We know that every bee's role is urgently needed for the health of the hive. We know how to see the sacred where we least expect to find it. We can lessen the pain of existential whiplash by looking to the Midbar, the wildernesses of our past, the wild world around us, and the wildernesses within, to discover what we need to thrive. To recap, lesson 1, build sanctuaries. Lesson 2, everyone has something to offer. Lesson 3, ask for help. Lesson 4, practice mindful awareness. Lesson 5, forgive. Lesson 6, grieve. Lesson 7, trust. A midrash teaches that midbar, wilderness, is linked to the word midaber, which means speech. We can use our speech, our words, to teach one another these lessons when we've forgotten. We can use them to write down our stories so we can return to them in the next wilderness. We can use them to remind ourselves that our ancestors passed down their grit along with their anxiety and their stomach problems, and that we're stronger for it. We are always in the wilderness, and there are always sanctuaries, and we keep trying and learning and becoming. There are words for what we're experiencing: existential whiplash. And there's a term for the antidote. It's what happens when we learn from everything behind us, around us, and within us. It's resilience.